But you said you didn't want your wife working now? That's what you said you preferred. Amaka. And that's why you decided to be a dummy. Look at other women, sophisticated, smart, beautiful, hot, but the one I call my wife. A blockhead. Just sitting around and getting fed like a leech. Be grateful I even married you, because honestly, who else would? Hey bestie, you know how life in Africa can be, full of drama, love, and unexpected turns. Today's story is one of those that'll make you laugh, think, and maybe even tear up a little. So grab your tea, get comfortable, and let your bestie tell you a story. The rice was still steaming when Tun dropped his spoon and leaned back. Honestly, Amaka, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, you should be grateful a man like me married you. The room fell quiet. Mama Ajayi looked down at her plate. Chief Ajayi shifted in his chair, but said nothing. Amaka kept her hands folded on her lap. Her eyes didn't move. Tund wasn't done. He scoffed and waved his hand in her direction. What do you even bring to the table? Look around you. This family, this house, it's not your level. It never was. One of his sisters coughed softly. No one met Amaka's gaze. Amaka forced a small smile. It didn't reach her eyes. She picked up her water glass but didn't drink. Mama Ajayi cleared her throat. Tund, maybe this is not the time. No, Mummy, let's say the truth, Tund cut in. I've been carrying this woman. She doesn't work, doesn't support anything. Always quiet, always acting like life is too big for her. I'm tired. The words hung in the air like smoke. Amaka blinked once. Slowly. Her voice never came. Chief Ajayi finally spoke. Enough. Let us eat in peace. Tund grumbled and returned to his plate, stabbing a piece of meat like it had offended him. Amaka's hands were steady, but her chest wasn't. Inside, something cracked. Not loudly. Not suddenly. But clean. Like a thin thread finally snapping after years of strain. She pushed her food around her plate, not tasting anything. The rest of the dinner passed in low conversation. Nobody mentioned what happened. Nobody looked her way. After the plates were cleared and small goodbyes were exchanged, Amaka stood, thanked her in-laws politely, and followed Tund out the door. In the car, he didn't speak. She didn't either. But the silence between them had changed. It was no longer the quiet of patience or endurance. It was the silence of someone who had stopped waiting to be seen. Amaka stared out the window as they drove back to their flat in Jabi. That night, while Tund snored beside her, she lay awake, eyes on the ceiling. She wasn't angry. She wasn't sad. She was empty. And emptiness, she knew, could be dangerous. Especially when filled with clarity. Amaka didn't sleep. By morning, her eyes were open, but her thoughts were far. The ceiling above her faded. In its place came a memory, sharp and still. She was 19 the day her father died. Chief Damien Nwankwo, a man known across boardrooms in Lagos and Abuja. Oil, logistics, industrial servicing. His hands were in everything. His name moved numbers. But at home, he was just daddy. The heart attack came without warning. 1 minute, he was laughing over dinner. The next, he was gone. The funeral was grand, as expected. Men in Igbata cried louder than his own brothers. Newspapers wrote tributes. Photos with governors filled the house. But the real storm came after. At the lawyer's office, 3 weeks later, Amaka sat with her back straight, trying to be strong. You inherit everything, the lawyer said. He left it all to you. She thought she heard wrong. She wasn't his only child, she was his only child. No sons. No backups. She remembered her fingers shaking as she signed the first document. Not because she didn't want the responsibility, but because she couldn't believe he had trusted her with it all. A quiet girl with soft eyes, still in university. Suddenly in charge of billions. His will had it all structured. Trusts holding companies, offshore protections. Every asset tied to a name she'd never used in public, Didn Capital. No shares in her name. No companies linked to her face. Just quiet power, wrapped in silence. She remembered his voice, now more clearly than ever. In this country, power is loud. I want yours to be quiet. Invisible until necessary. That line had guided her ever since. She built her public life small. A teaching job here, a charity board there. Nothing flashy. Nothing suspicious. No one looked twice at Amaka Nwankwo, the woman who wore plain dresses and carried second-hand handbags. And that was the point. Let them underestimate her. Let them talk. Behind the scenes, her father's empire grew. Investments matured. Deals were signed in her coded initials. She gave nothing away. Not even to Tund. Especially not to Tund. Back in the present, she blinked away the memory. His voice from the night before still echoed. What do you even bring to the table? She turned her head slightly, looking at him where he lay, fast asleep. She smiled to herself. He had no idea the table was hers. The morning sun slipped through the curtains. Amaka had already left the bed. She made breakfast quietly, boiled yam, eggs with pepper. Tun didn't say thank you. He scrolled through his phone, ate in silence, and left for the office. She cleaned the kitchen, folded laundry, then sat with her tablet to review reports from Didn Capital. Around noon, his voice floated in through the corridor. He was on the balcony, pacing. Amaka wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but the window was open. Babe, I swear, she's just there, he said. Dead weight. Lazy. Always quiet, like say she's doing anybody a favor. Silence. Then his voice again, lower now. I don't even feel anything anymore. She doesn't get it. Never has. If I didn't marry her out of pity. Amaka froze. She placed her tablet down gently and turned off the gas. She didn't move to confront him. She didn't call his name. She simply walked into the bedroom, closed the door behind her, and sat on the edge of the bed. The insult was not the first. But it cut deeper because he didn't even think to hide it. That night, they ate in silence. The air was heavy, not from tension, but from distance. Tun dropped his fork and sighed. Sometimes I wish you had more ambition. Amaka looked up slowly. Sorry. He waved his hand. Never mind. You wouldn't understand. Business things. She nodded. Okay. You've never built anything, he added, almost like an afterthought. You've never had to carry pressure. She smiled, a soft, tired smile. I see. Tun stood and walked away, still muttering. Amaka gathered the plates, scraped leftovers into the bin, and turned on the tap. The sound of running water filled the kitchen. She washed the dishes slowly, her hands steady. But inside, another thread snapped. She remembered what her father once told her. People will show you who they are when they think you have nothing to offer them. Tonight, she saw Tun clearly. And even though she stayed silent, a decision had started forming quietly in her chest. One he would never see coming. Tund walked into the boardroom 10 minutes late. Everyone was already seated. Chief Ajayi at the head of the table, brows furrowed. Two senior managers shuffled papers nervously. What's going on? Tund asked, dropping into his chair. His father didn't look up. We're in trouble. How bad? Very bad. A silence followed. One of the managers, Mr. Uche, cleared his throat. Sir, the Zenith facility has been frozen. GT Bank has called in their loan. Access is threatening legal action. Tund blinked. All at once. Debt is too high. Cash flow is almost zero. If this continues, Ajayi Logistics won't survive the quarter. Chief Ajayi finally spoke, voice low. Our name used to mean something in this town. Now, even vendors are pulling out. Tund leaned forward. Okay, so what do we do? Look for an investor. A strong one. I can reach out to some people. Who? His father asked sharply. Tund hesitated. There's one guy Bola knows. He has some Lagos connections. Mr. Uche frowned. Bola? That your assistant? Tund ignored him. Look, we don't have time. Anyone with money is better than no one. Chief Ajayi stared at him. What about your wife? Tund laughed. The room fell silent again. You're joking, right? He said. Amaka? She doesn't know anything about business. She's just there. Mr. Uche glanced away, uncomfortable. She's never run a company, Tund continued. She can't help. She wouldn't even understand the numbers. His father didn't reply immediately. Then he said, It's funny. The one person legally married to you, living under your roof, and you have no idea what she's capable of. Tund scoffed. Believe me, I know Amaka. She doesn't think that way. Chief Ajayi stood. We'll find someone. Anyone. I won't let this company die under my watch. Tund nodded slowly, already pulling out his phone. I'll talk to Bola. As they left the room, no one noticed Mr. Uche lingering behind, thoughtful. He had met Amaka once. Quiet woman. Polite. Soft-spoken. But something in the way she looked at people. It didn't match her silence. It stayed with him. Amaka sat at her small home office table, wrapped in soft silence. Her tea had gone cold. There was a knock at the door. Come in, she said. Barrister Adebayo stepped in, briefcase in hand. She was always precise, navy blue suit, low heels, no-nonsense energy. Good afternoon, Amaka, she greeted. I've brought the new portfolio. Amaka nodded. Let's see it. They sat. Adebayo opened the folder and spread out a series of coded files, each marked with project IDs, no company names. Just numbers, risk summaries, financial snapshots. This round, we're looking at distressed assets in the Abuja region, she explained. 3 are being liquidated quietly. Mostly logistics, construction, mid-size operations. Amaka scanned the pages slowly, eyes trained. Then she paused. Project ABJ 44, she murmured. She tilted her head slightly. Something about the numbers, the structure, the recent debt, it pulled at a memory. This reminds me of Daddy's old competitors, she said. Adebayo glanced up. Same pattern. Yes. Family-run, over-leveraged, refused to modernize. She flipped the page. Revenue was down 40%. Debt had doubled. The board was unstable. But the bones were still good. Do we know the identity? Amaka asked. Not yet. As usual, the seller masked it through intermediaries. But we've done our checks. No conflicts with our existing holdings. Amaka tapped her pen on the edge of the folder. It's salvageable. You want to pass or proceed? She didn't hesitate. Proceed. Acquire through Didn Capital. Keep my name out of all layers. Standard structure? Same as always. Barrister Adebayo nodded and started filling out the instructions. Amaka leaned back, eyes still on the numbers. Somewhere in the city, someone was struggling to hold this company together. She didn't know it was Tund. He didn't know she was the one about to take control. And that was how she preferred it. That afternoon, Amaka fried puff puff. The smell reminded her of early days, when Tund used to say she made the best in Abuja. When he would wait in the kitchen just to steal one before they cooled. She packed them gently into a small container, wrapped it in a clean cloth, and placed it in her bag. Tund had mentioned he'd be meeting some colleagues at a cafe in Woods. She decided to surprise him. Maybe, despite everything, he needed a reminder that she was still there. Still trying. She reached the cafe just before 4. Through the large glass window, she spotted him immediately. But he wasn't alone. Bola sat across from him, her posture relaxed, one hand on the table too close. Tund was smiling. That deep, easy smile he hadn't shown at home in months. They leaned in toward each other like no one else existed. Amaka stood frozen on the sidewalk. She didn't move forward. She didn't knock or call or wave. She stepped back, one slow step at a time, the box still clutched in her hand. She crossed the street without looking back. That night, she placed the untouched puff-puff on the kitchen counter. Tund came home late and muttered something about traffic. She nodded. Said nothing. Just before midnight, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. No message. Just one photo. Tund. Bola. Same cafe. Same smiles. Her hand didn't shake. She stared at the image for a long time, then locked her screen and placed the phone face down. She sat quietly in the dark, her eyes fixed on nothing in particular. The silence didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt familiar. And deep inside that silence, something started shifting, again. The dining table at the Ajayi house was full again. Fried rice, grilled fish, goat meat pepper soup, everything laid out like celebration. But Amaka knew better. She hadn't wanted to come. But Chief Ajayi insisted. Family must eat together, no matter what, he'd said on the phone. When she arrived, Bola was already seated, laughing softly with one of Tund's sisters. Oh, Amaka, Bola smiled, all innocence. What a surprise. I didn't know you'd be here. Neither did Amaka. She greeted everyone, took her usual seat at the far end, and kept quiet. Dinner began. The conversations flowed, mostly about the company, the market, someone's upcoming wedding. No one asked Amaka anything. She wasn't surprised. Halfway through the meal, Tund leaned back in his chair. You know, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Some people just sit in a house and become furniture. The table went quiet. You bring nothing to this family but shame and weight, he added, staring at Amaka. His mother gave a small chuckle, sipping her drink. Chief Ajayi said nothing. Just looked down at his plate. Bola didn't smile. She didn't have to. Amaka didn't flinch. She folded her napkin slowly, placed it beside her plate, and looked around the table, one face at a time. Not a single person met her eyes. She rose to her feet, calm and measured. Thank you for the food, she said, her voice soft but steady. Tund scoffed. Always pretending to be above it all. Just say something useful for once. Amaka turned to him. I see clearly now, she said. All of you, you've made your choice. She gave one last glance around the room. I won't disturb you again. Then she walked out, quietly, without slamming the door, without raising her voice. The only thing she left behind was silence. And her wedding ring, sitting in the middle of her untouched plate. The boardroom at Ajayi Logistics was tense. Chief Ajayi sat at the head of the table, fingers drumming on the polished surface. Tun sat beside him, scrolling through his phone. Bola, dressed sharply, perched on the edge of her seat, legs crossed, eyes alert. "Have they confirmed who this investor is?" Tund asked. "No," Chief Ajayi muttered. "Just that they're coming in person." "The lawyer said the funds cleared overnight," one of the directors added. "It's done. Whoever it is owns us now." Tun shrugged. "As long as we're saved, who cares?" The door opened. Everyone turned. Amaka walked in, straight-backed, composed, wearing a plain navy suit that fit without trying too hard. Tun's smile faded instantly. "What is this?" She walked to the center of the room, dropped a file on the table, and opened it. "Didn Capital," she said. "Effective this morning, I'm the new majority shareholder of Ajayi Logistics." Silence. Chief Ajayi's eyes widened. "Wait, Damien Nwankwo's daughter?" Amaka gave a slight nod. "I see you remember my father." Tun stood up, stunned. "This is a joke, right? You bought the company." She looked at him calmly. "You never asked who I really was." Bola shifted uncomfortably in her seat. The directors looked at one another. Amaka continued, voice firm but even. "I signed the acquisition 2 weeks ago. I didn't know then it was your company. But when I found out, I chose not to stop it." Chief Ajayi leaned back slowly. "You were under my roof yesterday. And today I'm in your boardroom," she replied. Tun stepped forward. "You can't. This isn't how business works." She looked at him, unblinking. "This is exactly how business works. No yelling. No revenge speeches. Just power, finally visible." She turned to the board. "I'll be addressing the leadership structure next. Some changes will be made." Tun stared at her like he was seeing a ghost. Amaka didn't flinch. She had been silent for too long. Now she had their full attention. The boardroom stayed frozen for a long second. Then Amaka pulled another file from her bag, thicker, tabbed, marked with color-coded labels. She opened it slowly. "I'll start with this," she said. "Ajayi Logistics has suffered from poor leadership, misuse of funds, and internal sabotage." She turned to Chief Ajayi. There were multiple warnings over the past 2 years. Ignored. He shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. She flipped to the next section. Over N18 million spent without board approval. Half of it traced to unrecorded consulting expenses that never reached any consultant. She slid a printed statement across the table. It stopped in front of Tund. He didn't touch it. Amaka didn't pause. The same account paid for hotel stays, shopping, and dinners, all connected to one recurring guest name. She looked at Bola. Bola's lips parted, but no words came out. She reached into her handbag, fumbled, then stopped. Amaka turned to the directors. "As majority shareholder, I am dissolving the current executive structure. Effective immediately, Chief Ajayi and Mr. Tund Ajayi are relieved of all leadership roles." One of the directors cleared his throat, but no one objected. It was over before it began. Tund stood, fists clenched. "You can't just erase a family legacy." Amaka opened her final envelope and placed it neatly in front of him. "Speaking of legacy," she said quietly, "I won't be needing your name anymore." Tund stared at the front page. Petition for divorce. Grounds: emotional abuse. Public humiliation. Infidelity. Financial misconduct. "You planned this," he muttered. "No," she replied, calm as ever. "You did." She gathered her files. "To the rest of the board, I'll be meeting with you tomorrow to discuss restructuring. Until then, your cooperation is appreciated." Amaka gave one last look at the three of them, father, son, and mistress. None of them looked back. She walked out the door without a single tremble in her step. And this time, the silence she left behind wasn't confusion. It was defeat. Tun sat alone in the same boardroom where everything had changed. The office phone had stopped ringing. His access card no longer worked. Bola hadn't answered his messages in 2 days. When he went to her apartment, she opened the door halfway and said, "I don't do broke men." Then she shut it. Even his parents were distant now. Chief Ajayi barely looked him in the eye. His mother, once eager to defend him, now spoke in quiet sighs. "This mess," she said finally, "you caused it." Tun said nothing. He had no defense left. Across the city, Amaka sat behind a wide glass desk. A new nameplate gleamed softly under the morning light. Amaka Nwankwo, CEO. The office wasn't overly furnished. No grand portraits or gold accents. Just clean order, quiet focus. A junior staff member passed by the glass door and whispered to another. She was the real owner? I heard her father left her everything, the other replied. I thought she was just the wife. No, she's the reason we still have jobs. Amaka heard none of it. She was reviewing a report, pen in hand, expression calm. Not cold, just clear. She signed the last page, closed the folder, and stood. Her steps were steady as she exited the office, heels clicking softly against the tiled floor. As she passed, heads turned. Not in mockery. Not in pity. In respect. No speeches. No announcements. Just presence. Just truth. At the elevator, she paused and looked back once, not at the office, but inward. Her father's voice echoed gently, as if riding on the stillness. True power doesn't shout. She smiled once. Not for them. Not for the past. For herself. For peace. And as the elevator doors slid closed, Amaka Nwankwo stood tall, no longer hiding, no longer silent, no longer afraid. Wow, bestie, that one touched deep, didn't it? Life really has a funny way of teaching us lessons through people we least expect. If you felt this story like I did, drop a heart in the comments. And don't forget, your bestie's got more stories coming your way, so hit subscribe and stay close. Till next time, stay kind, stay real, and stay my bestie. Because you know your bestie never runs out of stories.